The seat. When is a good time to organize your garage? As far as I was concerned, it was now above 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and my shirt was so sweat-soaked that it seemed like extra skin. Regretfully, time was running out. If I don't organize the garage, I'll have to keep the car in the driveway throughout the winter. I'll be back in class in a few weeks, teaching the next generation of Mozarts the difference between a quarter note and a half note. If we lived in Arizona, this wouldn't be an issue, but it wasn't very enjoyable in Chicago. In just 6 years of marriage, two people may amass an incredible amount of trash. It's not fair, no. I was going through a lot of things before Julie and I started dating. In one of the boxes, for instance, I discovered Julie's old Dell laptop. I was aware that it was outdated even when she used it in college. After some searching, I located the charger and plugged it in to check whether it would function. Nothing. I checked again a few hours later after leaving it on while I carried on cleaning. Since it wasn't mine, I knew better than to inquire before simply discarding it, so I put it aside. Still nothing. When Julie got home from work, she was in awe. She went inside and took a look around. What a busy little bee you have been. It looks fantastic, my dear. This winter, do you believe we can accommodate 2 automobiles here? I still have to go through this entire section tomorrow, but not yet. I indicated a few boxes in the distant corner. I have yet to organize the remainder, and I am aware that there are items in there that I may discard. When I'm finished, there will be plenty of space for us. I'm amazed. Julie said, I don't know. Have you prepared dinner yet? Her perspiration streaming down my face was all I could see. All right, she laughed as she spoke. I'll get dinner started. You must take a shower. There have never been more truthful words. I mentioned that I hadn't even stopped for lunch because I had been so busy since 8:30 a.m. I listened to Julie changing in the bedroom while I was taking my time in the shower. I hoped she would wash my back, but she didn't show up. I got the beer out of the fridge while she was chopping potatoes. Am I able to assist? No, you've done enough work for today, in my opinion. I have pork in the oven, she said. There won't be dinner soon, so go relax. My law is your wish. I made a joke. When she got the potatoes ready to boil, I brought my beer into the living room and sat down in my rocking chair. Come have a glass of wine with me, Julie. I forgot, even though I know you told me already. This Friday, where will you be performing at Plato's Place on Oakton? I replied. Why are you asking? Do you intend to join? It's been a while since you attended the show. In reality, a few of the workplace girls were discussing hosting a bachelorette party. Perhaps I should demonstrate to them that I am married to both the world's greatest music educator and a guitar-playing prodigy. When do you begin? It was 9 o'clock when she inquired. It's a bit late, I see. By then, they'll probably want to start going home. I might be able to persuade the guys to begin a bit sooner. Manager Plato probably won't complain to an additional half hour of free entertainment. That would be fantastic. Can you play Guitar Man immediately, honey? I chuckled. Having a woman who was so proud of her husband was a wonderful experience. The song Guitar Man undoubtedly highlights the guitarist's unique role among the group. When we played it, I always liked hitting the house. Yes, we will make it the 5th or 6th song of the first set, but I will need to check with the guys to make sure they can there early. Before I play this one, I need to warm up for a while. I had the computer-related notion a little later during dinner. Hey honey, I found your old Dell laptop in the garage. It is no longer effective. Can I discard it? Oh, I forgot about it entirely. No, don't discard it just yet. Many of the college pictures are still there. Someone informed me that they could still be preserved when it stopped operating. I couldn't remember what was inside. Yes, however, I am aware that I have photos of myself having a good time with other sorority girls. I want to attempt to save the photos if I can because I won't see most of these girls again. One of those computer businesses is probably where I'll have to take them. I don't believe I was a computer whiz, but I knew that getting data off a hard drive wasn't that difficult. When the school's computers malfunctioned, our computer science teacher, Bob Kramer, would frequently do this. It was 6 weeks till Julie's birthday. I was supposed to take her out to a lovely dinner and even had a nice pendant on installments. But I could really surprise her with these pictures and it wouldn't even cost me anything. I could picture her expression as she opened the tiny box containing the flash drive. After Julie went for work the following morning, I placed the computer and charger in my car's trunk, where they would stay until I met Bob at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when school started. I had finished the garage. After much effort, I was able to make room for both cars. I closed the roll-up doors after driving mine inside. I knew Julie would be astonished when she got there. I started phoning the other guys in the group to ask if they could start early on Friday night after taking a shower. After getting there okay, I called Plato's manager to make sure he was okay with it. The evening proved to be a lot of fun. When we began setting up, Julie and her pals were already there. We completed our sound checks by 8:15, so the boys and I went to greet them at their table. Everyone was introduced by Julie. One of the women mentioned that Julie had been boasting about us all evening, so she thought we would provide a fantastic show. I checked my watch and decided that we had better go up there and see if we could meet your standards. While the other men went up to greet their wives seated at another table, I kissed Julie and made my way to the stage. People were already on the dance floor. By the time our second song began, I saw a few of Julie's group members dancing, and I glanced over to their table in time to witness my wife being asked to dance. Julie enjoys dancing, so when I'm on stage, I don't mind if she dances with other men. She rarely consents to slow dancing, and when she does, she and her partner are always somewhat separated. Friends who occasionally attended the performance and sat with Julie informed me that whenever she accepts a stranger's invitation to dance, she tells them that her husband is in the group and will be watching in case the dancer has any notion. Since everyone in Julie's group was still there at 10, I felt a little bad about asking the boys to start early. One woman even called her husband to invite him to join them during our first break. It wasn't until we were well into our second set that they began to disband. Julie remained at the table with another woman. I joined them and ordered a beer during our second break. When Julie boasted about you guys, she was not mistaken. "You're quite talented," Carol said. "You're the last person in the group." Julie smiled and nodded in agreement. In addition to playing the keyboard, Aaron teaches the other guys music. Even if it's only a pastime, everyone gives it their all. "Well, you can see it. It's unfortunate that I can't remain until the finish of the show, but I have to leave," Carol retorted. "It was a pleasure to meet you both." As she got up to go, I said, getting to my feet, "I'll join the ladies' table, honey, but I probably won't stay overnight." A table directly in front of the stage was occupied by the wives of the other musicians. Julie had little affection for a couple of women. She claimed that they enjoyed discussing other individuals, but not in a positive light. Thus, the remark regarding the table of reasons, "Ladies." But if she didn't come with our buddies, she sat at their table and was always friendly. "All right, honey, we're heading back to the stage. Please wave to me as you go, and drive carefully." "Yes, honey, I will." Show them what a band with a great guitarist sounds like by getting up there now. Taking a lyric from her favorite song, she said. The time had passed past 2 in the morning. I was thrilled to get home and hoped Julie would stay up, but she dozed off on the blanket while wearing her most attractive negligee. She clearly thought the same things I did, but the late hour was a bit much for her. It's always bittersweet to begin a new school year. Looking around the different classes while seated at my desk, I saw some pupils I knew and others I didn't, as well as some kids I loved and some I didn't. I constantly worried how the graduates from the previous year were doing, considering that most of them would never see me again. Now, in spite of everything, I always made an effort to guide and develop their abilities. I attempted to share my understanding of music and occasionally some life lessons with each of them. Tommy Benton held up his hand for me to see. He was in my class for the 3rd year. He was unlikely to pursue a career in music and was at best a C student. But I always believed he had a good chance of making a career out of stand-up comedy. Since he was the class clown, I knew we would have a good time beginning the year. Indeed, Tommy. Before I noticed Bob Kramer in the staff lounge having lunch, I had entirely forgotten about Julie's PC. After getting my own lunch out of the refrigerator and making myself a cup of coffee, I went to join him. "Hello, Bob. How did your summer go?" "Dan, hello. Not too awful. This year, Jan was able to take 3 weeks off, so we took the kids to a small Michigan lake. Everyone had a terrific time. What about you?" Before I asked my first question, we told each other anecdotes about our 3 months together. "Listen, Bob, my wife's laptop is an old Dell. That is no longer effective. I had considered discarding it, but she wants to attempt to save a lot of the pictures. Could you look at it, please?" "Naturally. No issue. Are you carrying it?" "Yes, it's in my car's trunk." "All right. After we complete our lunch, I'll accompany you outside. I'll watch it for you tonight when I get it to my car." We didn't cross paths again until after school the following day, as I was preparing to go for home. As I was leaving class, "Dane," he yelled out to me from the hallway. After a minute, I turned to see him coming. "Yes, I do have the pictures you requested." He approached me and said, "Follow me to my car, and I'll give you these." He had everything in his trunk. He gave me the flash disk first. "I've included every image I could find." She dispersed them over the area. She had a few files, but she added even more to the Windows Shared Images folder and even more to her email. I believe I located roughly 300 of them altogether. Then he removed the hard disk. A lovely storage case was included with it. "Her hard disk is here." Giving it to me, he said, "Everything is all right, so please let me know if she needs anything else." The computer itself was all that remained. "Would you like the others to return?" "I want to keep it if not. I am able to disassemble it into bits." "Sure, no issue. Go away." Julie only wanted the pictures, I informed him. "She doesn't seem sentimental about the case, in my opinion." I made a joke. "All right, thanks." When I moved the pictures to the flash drive, I took a look at a few of them. A few of them are humorous. Before we said our goodbyes on the way home, he added, I thanked him once more. I considered the flash drive. I've seen ones that had rhinestone hearts all over them and were really lovely. Even having the person's initials etched on them is an option. Bob gave me a straightforward one. Since Julie's birthday was still a month away, I decided to see what I could find on Amazon and a few other websites. That was the plan, anyway. We cuddled on the couch until it was time for bed after Julie selected a few romantic flicks from Netflix. The sophisticated flash drive would have to wait until the next day because I was determined not to miss another romantic evening. When I saw Bob again, I asked him if he knew where I could purchase a high-end flash drive. I halted him in the hallway. It was only a brief inquiry, and I was aware that he had to attend class. "Hello, Bob." "Dane, hello. Is there anything more you need? Would you happen to know where I might purchase a high-end flash drive that would be more appropriate for a birthday present?" He chuckled. "My friend, you're in the correct location, but I have to leave for class now. After school, come see me." Using these terms, he pivoted and proceeded down the hallway. He entered my classroom on his way out at the end of the day when I was still packing up. "You want to move these pictures to a better flash drive, then?" "Bob, hello. Yes, something pleasant. You've come to the proper person, as I mentioned. One of my friends works as a photographer. On the North Coast, he maintains a studio. Even if he is extremely costly, nobody in those areas seems to care. He works well. Therefore, he hires people based on false prices, and they still pay. He also does a lot of expensive boudoir photo sessions." Bob's mind wandered at the mere notion, and he burst out laughing. "Not so awful, isn't it? He gets paid a lot of money to photograph beautiful women wearing sexy underwear. There are plenty of trophy wives in that area, many of whom were models in a previous life, but as he points out, not all of them are beautiful. Well, if you want fancy flash drives, he's the person to call. His packages for boudoir photography contain them. Even the engraving can be done by him. The studio is called Hanson's Photography. Wilmette is where it is. Online, you can locate a number. Carl is his name. Give him a call and express your desires. Inform him that I suggested him to you and that you are my friend. He'll probably give you one at wholesale pricing, and I'm confident you'll appreciate what he has. Again, I owe you one, Bob." "Dane, you're welcome. I'm always glad to assist." Before I forgot and put it in my briefcase, I wrote down the studio's name on a sheet of paper. I made plans to meet him at his studio on Saturday after giving him a call at lunchtime the next day. After that, I had to think of a good reason to tell Julie where I was going. Her house was about an hour's journey away in one direction. I anticipated traveling there and back in 2.5 hours. I wanted it to be a total surprise, even though I didn't enjoy lying to her because I knew she had already forgotten about the pictures once more. Finally, I informed her that I was going to practice with a friend at the golf course. The interior and exterior of Bob's studio turned out to be breathtaking. Carl greeted me at the door and extended an invitation to enter. His enormous photos hanging on the outside office's walls caught my attention right away. The majority of them were exquisite portraiture. He had a few stunning women in pricey lingerie, but I also recognized some of them as local politicians and celebrities. Bob was correct. "You have a job that most men could only dream of," I observed, glancing at one of the boudoir photos. He chuckled. "Yes, I suppose. Is this the wife of someone?" "Still looking?" I asked. "No, even with a client's consent, I would never share a boudoir photo of them online." "No, she works as a model professionally." I made a comment. Indeed, it is." "All right," he said. "On the phone, you mentioned that you were trying to find your wife a good flash drive. I'll show you what I have if you come." He led me inside what he referred to as the display room. "We bring clients here to show them the photos we've taken and sell all the related products that are included in the various service packages," he explained. Depending on the client's budget, he might print their images in leather books and a different range of other goods. I became anxious. Everything appeared to be quite costly. He pulled out all of his flash discs. On the black velvet, they were all spread out. I was immediately drawn to one. "This is incredible. This is my favorite. You have good taste, Dane. How much does it cost?" $2,000. I'm not sure I fully understood him at first. It sounded like $2,000 and I hesitated for a while, trying to think of what he could say. I was at a loss for ideas. "Did you mention $2,000? My clients pay for it like that." "Indeed. The genuine diamonds are set in 24-karat gold plating. I thought the excursion had been pointless. I teach music at high school, Carl. This is totally above my budget. Apologies. I'm sorry if I interrupted you." He chuckled once more. "This is my dearest, I told you." "Yes, exactly. How much are you willing to spend, though, based only on that?" he inquired, disturbing me. "I'm embarrassed to inform you, Carl, that I still owe $100 on a $300 pendant that I had to pay off in installments 2 months ago. I had no idea that such flash drives even existed. I was going to go. Are you able to pay $17? All right." The jump from $2,000 to $17 was significant. When he presented it to me, I was pleasantly surprised because I thought it would be something you could purchase at Walmart. I provide frequent portrait clients with this. 100 at a time, I purchase them. I have both a shine and a matte finish, like this one, and they are nickel-plated. Without a doubt, it was better than anything I could purchase at Walmart. Your wife's name can be engraved on it at a small store a few blocks away. The owner performs an excellent job. He will most likely charge you around $10 if I send you. For that, he even gave me a sweet small gift box. I rushed to make the engraving after thanking him profusely. It had been nearly 3.5 hours by the time I arrived home. I figured Julie might be a little miffed about my prolonged absence on Saturday. When I walked in, she was just beginning to make dinner. You either struck the ball so hard that you didn't want to stop until you rectified your shot, or you hit the ball so brilliantly that you didn't want to stop. I chuckled. I don't want to discuss it. I informed her that it was the backup plan. I didn't want to tell her any more lies than were absolutely required. After getting a cup of coffee later that evening, I withdrew to our home office and informed Julie that I needed to finish some review work. I was fairly certain that I would have plenty of time to move the pictures from Bob's flash drive to the one I purchased because she seldom ever troubled me when I was there. After making a folder and plugging Bob's flash drive into the USB port, I started the download. It took a few minutes because I didn't have a very powerful laptop. I thought of 532 files, my God. I took out Bob's flash drive and connected a second one. Oh no, Carl was correct, she was stunning. Julie's name was beautifully engraved by the store employee. I waited as the download began. After that, I checked that by opening the USB device because I didn't want to leave anything to chance. The pictures loaded without any issues. I glanced at the tiny thumbnails for a moment after opening the file, reaching the bottom of the page by scrolling down. Everything seemed to have copied without any issues. I had a brilliant idea when I came across some photos of Julie and I sharing a kiss while scrolling. To give it to her, I would print the finest one and frame it. I gently scrolled up the page to find photos of us together the day after her birthday. I located one where Julie was definitely present, but it didn't appear that I was seated close to her. I clicked on it, and sure enough, Julie was seated next to an unfamiliar man. It looks like it was taken at a party, and there are other people walking around in the background. I didn't give it much thought and carried on looking because the photo didn't include any damaging information. I thought there must be better photos of the two of us, so I continued looking after finding one of us kissing, but we were both blurry. I located another picture, but it didn't show our faces. The only things visible were Julie's arm over my back and the back of my head. She was wearing the bracelet I gave her that evening, so I knew it was us. We started dating. I studied the little pictures more closely, still trying to find something appropriate. She and her sorority sisters were featured in many amazing photos. Knowing that this would truly bring her joy made me grin. I continued looking, sometimes clicking on a thumbnail only to discover it wasn't worth printing. I didn't know what it was, but I saw one. It was photographed from a distance. I had to click on it to be certain, but it appeared as though it might have been Julie and myself. I wasn't the one, but it was Julie. Alongside her, my wife leaned over and kissed his cheek while the other guy held her. She was holding a drink in her left hand, and her wristband was plainly visible. I began to wonder why I wasn't there and who the devil this person was. Once more, it is clear that this was done at a party. Something else caught my attention as I looked at the man more closely. I began looking again. More significantly, when I finally located what I was looking for, my blood pressure shot through the roof. I assumed that picture was of Julie and me. We weren't kissing intensely. For a brief moment, I realized that I had never had a shirt with blue and white stripes. I sat looking at the screen with a million questions racing through my head at once. All three of the pictures were of Julie and this guy, and they were taken after we allegedly became an exclusive couple. Who is he? Where have I been? Did they merely act as though they were kissing? I was unable to determine whether their lips were truly in contact. Whose gathering did they attend? I searched for other people I knew, but I couldn't find any. However, the pictures weren't very excellent either. While this was going on, where in the world was I? After navigating to the top of the screen and selecting Windows settings, I enlarged the thumbnails to large icons and started conducting a more thorough search. Based on the clothing they were wearing, I was able to identify them together in a couple more photos. The photos appeared to have been taken on 4 separate occasions. I was not in any of these pictures, and I couldn't identify the date on any of them to stop my mind from spinning with amazing ideas. After printing out a picture of her kissing a man on the cheek and asking her directly about it, I changed my mind. Since her birthday was so near, these pictures may be entirely innocent from the day we exchanged vows, despite how accusatory they appear at first glance. She was a faithful wife who never made me question her loyalty. I concluded that, at least until her birthday, she should be given the benefit of the doubt. Just as I was going to shut the laptop lid, I had another thought. The order in which the images emerged was illogical because they were captured from various cameras and at different times. They were literally all over the place. Julie's photos with this guy weren't even grouped. The pictures of her with this guy could be rearranged and put at the top of the page, maybe with 1 or 2 more pictures in between. In this manner, I could observe her response as soon as she began perusing them. I was interested in her response. Would she pass them by in a different way, maybe suggesting that there was nothing between them, or would I detect guilt? I've never been the type to sit and contemplate, regardless of the size of the issue. I always thought facing it was preferable. The situation only got worse when people sat around worrying or thinking about it. Although I was aware that I would have a lot of questions over the following several weeks, I had to make an effort not to let them influence how I behaved at home. I also somewhat altered my plans with Julie. Friday was her birthday. That night, I was planning to give her a card with pennant on it. Our parents visited on Sunday afternoon with cake after I took her to supper and danced at Plato's place on Saturday. My parents left the restaurant to return home after we all attended an early dinner together. On Saturday evening, I was going to give her the flash drive so she could show her parents the pictures the following day. When everyone was huddled around the computer, I considered making Julie feel uncomfortable by asking her who she was kissing in the picture. Again, though, I chose not to attempt to embarrass her in this manner because there was no proof that anything was truly occurring. I chose to hold off on giving her the flash drive until Sunday night, when we arrived home. I suppose I did a decent job of concealing my doubts because Julie only inquired once over the course of the following 2 weeks about how things were going. When I presented her the pendant that evening, she was crying and in seventh heaven. I had no time to explore my thoughts further. I was in heaven for 3 hours after Julie attacked me in bed. After supper on Saturday, we danced until 1 in the morning, followed by another romantic evening. When everyone was there on Sunday, I'm relieved that I didn't make Julie feel uncomfortable. We all came together for the first time in a long time, and we had a terrific time. Julie's parents had a 2-hour journey home, so we all said our goodbyes in the restaurant parking lot and parted ways, even though I know our parents didn't want it to end. Julie and I arrived home at around 8:30. Julie went to the kitchen. "Honey, I'll make coffee. Would you like me to prepare it for 2 people?" It seemed like a fantastic idea because I just had 1 cup to balance the 2 glasses of wine I had at dinner. "Yes, sweetheart, thank you," I answered. The final present was in my jacket pocket. Honestly, I wasn't certain if I should confront her. I contemplated if I should just give it to her without mentioning the man. Regretfully, this would go against who I am. The past fortnight has been agonizing. There was no way I could live this way any longer. When I sat down and set a small, brightly packed box on the table, I needed to know that she was preparing coffee with her back to me. Without looking back, she replied, "I have another gift for you, dear, and I even know what it is. But to be completely honest, sweetheart, I'm not sure whether I'll be able to handle it tonight." "No, sweetheart," I laughed in response. "That's not what I'm discussing." That came to join me at the table and hit the brew button. Only then did she see the little box that was brightly packed. "Dear, oh dear," she murmured as she swiftly reached for and unpacked it. She opened the lid. She was unaware of what it was yet, but it was a lovely flash drive bearing her name. She took off the flash drive's cover. "This is fantastic, honey. Thank you." "Wait," she murmured, her voice a little unsure. I said, getting to my feet to pick up my laptop. I put it with the screen open in front of her. "Insert it." "Usually, I tell you that." She inserted the drive in jest. As the sketches emerged on the screen, the sound was nearly deafening. "I took these pictures on my old laptop." She jumped up with excitement and threw her arms around my neck as she shouted. She thanked me once more and lavished me with kisses before settling back in to start reliving her college years. I sat across from her in the pictures so I could see her face. I put a picture of her and him sitting together close to the end of the first row after I rearranged the pictures. The 2 where they shared a kiss were in the 3rd row, while 3 more were strewn along the 2nd row. I kept a close eye on her and knew trouble was coming when Julie reached the end of the front row and took a rapid breath while sobbing almost audibly. Like lasers, her eyes focused on additional figurines. She started crying when she saw the final 2 photos of them kissing. A knot formed in my stomach. "Would you like to share it with me?" It wasn't a question, it was a declaration. "Why are you kissing him while wearing the bracelet I gave you, and who is he?" It was meant to represent our exclusivity, as I recall. I observed her attempting to contain her tears. "Oh God, Dane, how do I explain this? I was aware that you would suffer harm. Did you sleep with him while we were meant to be exclusive? Are you telling me?" My voice was already filled with fury. She certainly could. "No, not at all. I had to be certain, honey. I was terrified. I had to be certain. I didn't want to repeat my mother's error." Julie kept calling her mother, so I knew she was going through a divorce. Mom, although the first name of her stepfather is Don. He was her stepfather, I thought. It was never mentioned in conversation, and I never inquired as to what had transpired. It could be time to find out now. "Could you elaborate?" It was hard for me to be courteous. "At the age of 7, my biological father abandoned us." She started by lamenting her mother's admission that she was mostly to blame. "My father proposed to her, but she claimed to be in love with another man. She claimed that she would always wish for the other man to come and take her away since she could never love him the way she ought to. Naturally, this never occurred, and my father ultimately, in a sense, went to his secretary. In any case, he left us without money. For years, we suffered. When I was 12, she met Don. Mom didn't want to rush things for 2 years because she was afraid of repeating the same mistake, even though he was nice from the beginning. They learned that my father never filed for divorce when she eventually came to the realization that she truly loved Don. They had to wait an additional 6 months after Don gave her the money to file for divorce. For several minutes, I sat there contemplating what she had said. She said that her mother was in love with another man, although I suppose that a lot of it made sense. "You were smitten with the man in the picture. I was obsessed with him since 6th grade, but I wasn't sure if I had known him since I was a child. I was certain that I adored him. Then we started dating in high school, and every time I was with him, my heart skipped a beat. What then took place? It's clear that you split up for a while. He shifted. In St. Louis, his father obtained a new job. He joined them after he and his mother stayed until he graduated. I was heartbroken. I moaned about him for a few weeks until I stopped. I had no method of getting in touch with him, and he never called. I therefore made myself forget about him. I met you in my 3rd year at Northern a few years later, and I fell in love right away. Then one evening, I received a call from an old acquaintance from high school, Tammy, who informed me that she had met Chuck. She informed me that he was a student at Aurora University, and that he and his family had returned to Chicago. You and I were already together, and the travel from Northern was just 30 minutes. When he went, it stung a lot. Even though I knew I loved you, Dane, I had to be sure that if we were to get married, I could truly love you the way you deserve to be loved and that Chuck's ghost wouldn't cast doubt on us. I trusted what she told me because I didn't allow her time to fabricate a tale, but I didn't support her behavior in any way. I ought to have been aware of the entire tale. You appear to have had at least 4 or 5 encounters with him. Have you ever shared a bed with him? No. In high school, we shared a night together a couple times, but I never slept with him. Then, her response sounded nonsensical. You just told me that you need to make sure I'm the one and that you love me just as much as you love him. Come on. You're telling me that you didn't take into account the intimate aspect of that brief evaluation. Are you saying that you weren't interested in learning how much he's learned since school? The tears that had begun in Julie's eyes were now running down her face with sobs, and I could feel myself starting to lose my cool. She actually makes a sound in between sobbing. Dan, I never spent a night with him. I couldn't accomplish it, but we were really close. Have you come close? How near? I asked vehemently. I didn't see him again after that. He lived off campus in a 2-bedroom apartment with his girlfriend, and he had a friend whose name escapes me. To hang out, we went there. Although no one actually talked to me about it, I believe it was obvious that we would spend the night after we had a little drink. In addition to our past together, Chuck and I had previously attended a few parties and shared a few kisses in his car. I believe he believed that connection was inevitable. In any case, he put me to bed, but I told him I couldn't handle this and walked out the moment he began touching me. She sobbed. I wasn't sure what I believed or didn't believe at the time, but one thing persisted. All this time, where in the world had I been? Julie Tr. Almost all of our leisure time was spent with you. All of this occurred when? God, oh God. She clearly covered her face with her hands after exclaiming. The worst hasn't reached me yet. Her eyes were puffy and red as she stared up at me. Was that while you were a teacher? She informed me. I understood why. She refused to respond to my query. By that time, we were engaged. I cried out. You spent 12 weeks dating another man. After we became engaged, I found it hard to keep my emotions in check. Your wedding band was missing. There aren't any pictures of you wearing it. When I was with him, I kept it in my purse. She made a noise. Not while you were teaching, though. It has been a few weeks after you left. For a few more weeks after receiving that call from Tammy, I battled with myself over whether or not to pursue him. I interrupted in a furious tone, a fight I obviously lost. She shook her head in accord, still crying. How much time did you spend with him? If the duration of my absence was shorter than 12 weeks. She acknowledged that every 6 or 7 weeks, I called him after Tammy gave me his number. An hour or so was spent catching up. Then he invited me to a party they were hosting on campus that Saturday. Although I felt bad for telling him I had to leave early to study for a big test, we still had a great time together. A few days later, he gave me a call and asked me to another party the next weekend. This picture was taken there. And one more, isn't that right? The one when he's trying to force his tongue down your throat as you're in a passionate hug. I joke. She gave me a look that suggested she didn't know what I was talking about. I quickly turned the laptop to find the photo because I knew where it was on the page. Julie covered her lips and grimaced as I clicked on it and swung the laptop back in her direction. I'm really sorry, Dan. If it was just on the second date, I apologize. It must have occurred more than once. I told you, Dan, I wouldn't lie to you. It did occur a couple of times. Yes, along with a lot more. I said, and she gave me another nod of approval. I wasn't certain. Since I thought she hadn't slept with him, I gave her a gentle prod to see if she would tell how much more we were kissing each other. She acknowledged that we shared a few kisses. I allowed him to put his hands in inappropriate places. You're telling me that he didn't have endo with you, but you still allowed him to touch you and perhaps play with your breasts. To be honest, Dane, I was honest with you. I said, she said. My stomach was in knots by now. Every nerve in my body felt as though it had been torched by a torch, and I had a terrible headache. I had to leave that place. When I got up and went outside to my car, she was still crying. Since I normally feel more at ease when driving in the country, I took the quickest route northwest, which led to open spaces and rural roads. Regretfully, it was unsuccessful. A kaleidoscope of pictures of Julie and this Chuck person filled my mind. I was increasingly suspicious and kept asking additional questions. She returned to me when he left her, so perhaps I was the backup plan. She claimed that after moving in, he didn't give her a call. Perhaps she came to the realization that he wasn't genuinely interested in her. Perhaps she understood that he would never wed her. As a result, I was her fallback, and she left him with unresolved intimate tension after leaving the bed. How am I expected to think that when I realized I was at a red light, I stopped? I looked about, but I couldn't find my location at all. Even if I was still in Illinois was a mystery to me. I might have visited Iowa or Wisconsin. I checked the time on my watch. Oh no, it was nearly 3 in the morning. To hell with it, I have to be in class in 5 hours. I sat at the traffic light till it changed twice, I told myself. After that, I pulled out my phone and left the school secretary a message. This is what I was wondering. Julie had left me a number of missed calls and texts inquiring about how things were going. She was definitely not asleep either, considering the last one was only 20 minutes ago. I hinted at going home, but I stopped at the first motel I came across since I was too exhausted from all the stress. When I registered, I saw the address. New Diggins, Wisconsin, was where I was. I had no idea where that was, and I didn't give a damn. Even though I don't recall lying down on the bed since I was so exhausted, I must have done so because I had to wake up immediately. I slipped out of bed and instinctively went in the opposite direction because I had to use the restroom. I paused to orient myself when I eventually opened my eyes and noticed a strange wall in front of me. I began to remember everything that had transpired at that point. After locating the restroom door, I relieved myself and immediately dove into the shower. As I made my way back into the room, I started to feel like myself again. I sat on the bed and looked at the clock on my phone while the coffee was brewing. Oh no, I said to myself in a whisper. It was 10 minutes before 11 o'clock. I had to check out in only 20 minutes. After getting ready, I sat down to drink this awful coffee and attempted to gather my thoughts. I still harbored some concerns and thoughts regarding my limitations. How can I be certain that I wasn't the consolation prize but rather Julie's sole option? I left my room key at the front desk as I walked out into the lobby. The idea was to locate a dining establishment where I could have a good cup of coffee and eat while thinking. But as soon as I arrived to my car, my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law, as I could see from the display. As I responded, I opened the car door and sat with one leg inside and one outside. "Hi, Mother." When she spoke, I could sense the concern in her voice. "God be praised. Are you all right? All night long, Julie has been attempting to contact you. She hasn't had any sleep at all." "Yes, we had a minor altercation last night. I got in the car after you departed and spent the majority of the night driving around the neighborhood." Her sigh of relief reached my ears. "She told me everything, I know that. I am solely to blame. I'm the one who indoctrinated her with all of this, you know. I began warning her about being certain before marrying anyone's mother when she was just 12 or 13. I can see the want to be certain before getting married, but going behind my back and really seeing another man for weeks after we became engaged goes beyond that. Utterly dishonest. I tried to relax when I noticed that I was becoming agitated once more. After this, how can I trust her? How can I be certain that she didn't approach this guy behind my back? Oh, Dan, if you would pause and listen to your heart, you would know. I understand that you're upset, but just remember that Julie loves you." "Mom, that's the issue." "I don't think so. How can I be certain that this Chuck guy wasn't Julie's backup and didn't dump her? Did she ever hint at the fact that you were her backup plan, Dan?" "Believe me, Dan, I can talk from experience. When a woman feels satisfied with second place, she is compelled to demonstrate it in some way. I assumed I would eventually come to love Julie's father when I initially married him. But eventually, I started to see all of his shortcomings, even the small, unimportant ones. They grew into significant things. I told myself I could do better when I began to grow irritated with my spouse. For years, I pursued him, picked on him, and treated him disrespectfully. I mistreated him until I eventually evicted him from the house. Yes, Julie informed me that he eventually left you guys with nothing after running off with his secretary." She sighed, and I heard it. "Dan, that's not what actually occurred. I wish it were so, for the truth is far worse. When he finally could stand it no longer, he fled. I had essentially destroyed his confidence and spirit by that point. He got inside the bottle and remained there. He was still living with his mother when he lost his job and the majority of his friends. Before proceeding, he was just 42 years old when he passed away from liver failure. I often heard her sob. I thought I had murdered him." She went on. "For a few weeks, I sobbed myself to sleep every night. After I learned of his passing, I felt terrible. At about the same time, Julie began to discuss Chuck. Chuck did this and Chuck did that. I enjoyed him. I began speaking with her virtually every day after that. They spent years together, all the way through high school. By that time, I was very certain they were already dating. I increased the volume of our chats, but she persisted in assuring me that she loved him. When he moved out, I was relieved, but I never told Julie. I believed it would provide her with an opportunity to meet someone fresh. Before falling in love, other guys seen their true selves. I knew she had chosen the correct man when she met you. This was a revelation, even though I had heard pieces of her mother's story before. You told Julie falsehoods about her father's affair with his secretary, then? Yes, I am aware that I shouldn't have done it, but I already felt bad about how I treated him as soon as he left. All I have left is Julie. I essentially blamed her father for everything because I didn't want her to despise me. I simply could not afford to lose her as well. Please don't be too hard on me. I know what you must think of me after all this. I made an effort to fix my errors. I did my best to be a good mother to Julie and a decent wife to Dawn. In hindsight, I probably should have been less vocal about my concerns about the man she married. I realize it was wrong to lie to her about her father, and I should have trusted her more. Eventually, I'll be honest, I don't believe that now is the appropriate moment. Right now, she has plenty on her plate. I told her I wouldn't say anything, and I agreed. En route home, I considered everything. According to Julie's mother, one thing in particular caught her attention. She inquired as to whether Julie had ever said that I was second best. The response was emphatically no. Actually, I thought I was one of the luckiest individuals in the world until I came upon these pictures. My wife never pushed me to be more than I was. She genuinely thought that if I wanted to, I could do anything. She was aware of my love for teaching. The majority of our acquaintances are married, and occasionally I find myself cringing at the things that some wives say to their spouses. They treat their wives with such obvious disdain, and the husband typically just takes it all in stride. In public or private, Julie has never treated me disrespectfully or placed me in such an unpleasant situation. Julie had her phone in her hand as she lay on the couch. She opened her eyes when I entered and sat up as soon as she heard the door open. "Oh God," she cried. "If nothing else, could you tell me you're all right?" I was really anxious. I didn't get any sleep at all. I contacted the school this morning to check on you after you failed to return home. When I was informed that you were ill, I was enraged. I asked my mother to call you over the phone. Indeed, I had already spoken with her. She called. "I know. You were okay," she replied when she called me back. "Have you had any food? Do you want breakfast?" There, I nearly had to smile. She was putting my needs ahead of her own rage. Once more, everything is good on my end. I stopped at a small, oily spoon on the way home. The coffee is only an hour or so old and is fresh. It sounded excellent, she told me. The coffee I had for breakfast apparently sat on the heater all night. I remained silent. I still had a lot on my mind and hadn't made up my mind as I made my way from the living room into the kitchen. I made a cup for myself and took a seat at the kitchen table to reflect. Julie entered a few minutes later and stood at the doorway. "I want to apologize to you, but I'm not sure if I did so last night. It appears to be really significant. I had to be quite certain that it was you looking back at the moment. I should have realized that you were far superior to Chuck in every aspect. Without feeling compelled to give him a chance, I had to watch it. Your mother accepts responsibility for the confidence-boosting skills she instilled in you. That's no justification for what I did, Dan," I retorted. "I had to witness it firsthand. I sincerely apologize. I am aware of the pain it caused you. In your eyes, I see it. I sincerely apologize for these remarks." Turning, she walked out of the room. She must have gone upstairs. I remained in the kitchen thinking. I've always thought of myself as reasonable. As a teacher, I was able to deconstruct and rationally explain even the most difficult difficulties such that everyone knew that I needed to somehow switch off my emotion and activate my intellect. I thought of something. The laptop from the previous evening was still on the kitchen table. I enlarged it and began looking, but the results were sadly lacking. All right, this will have to be done the hard way. Aurora University was just 45 minutes away, I reminded myself. I left after yelling that I will return in a few hours. The first thing I had to do was research Chuck, this character. Because I didn't want Julia to warn him that they might still be in touch, I didn't want to ask her last name. However, I was unable to locate his class yearbook on the internet. There was possibly a copy at the university library. I eventually discovered it, though it took some time. Charles Goodman was his name, and business management was his major. All right, his last name was part of my commercial activities. My initial plan was to search Facebook for him, but I had a better idea. First, I would try LinkedIn. The business community was the main focus, and the majority of users included their images next to their profiles. I discovered that the school password was already online and not disabled, even though I had assumed it was necessary to access the machines in the library. He was with me a few minutes later. He was employed for a computer programming company that supplied auto repair shops with specialist software. Before entering into Facebook, I jotted down the name of the business and its phone number. I knew I would uncover hundreds of Charles Goodmans, but now I had more information to help me distinguish him. Unfortunately, neither of the two results I got when I entered Aurora into the search field next to his name worked. The other was too young, while the first was too old. I broadened the scope of my search but still got no results. I spent over an hour doing this with no results. Well, I believed I knew who he was employed by. I got a brainstorm and stopped looking on Facebook. The first man I came across was old enough to be Chuck's father. I took a seat again and gave him another glance. He was married, according to his knowledge, but that was it. I saw Lisa Goodman in his list of friends. I clicked on her since she appeared to be around my age. It turned out to be Chuck's wife. Several pictures of her and him together were included. I learned that they had an external daughter after doing more research. He had the appearance of a typical, hardworking, contented married father, but I knew that appearances can be deceiving. I had to verify Julie's story somehow to be sure they weren't still seeing each other behind my back. It was 7:30 when I arrived home. I looked upstairs, but Julie wasn't there. It appeared that she had sobbed herself to sleep based on the damp patch on the pillow. I went into the kitchen to check if she had made herself any food. I ordered pizza for the two of us as soon as I noticed the dishwasher was empty. Other than Julie's apologies, not much was said over the course of the following several days, and they continued to walk. After a week, my feelings and ideas were still scattered. Although I loved my wife and would likely be able to forgive her if I had concrete proof that everything transpired exactly as she had claimed, I was unable to shake my concerns. Before I could draw any conclusions, I still needed to answer 3 crucial questions. I was plagued by 3 questions all day and night. How could I be certain she hadn't had an affair with him? After he broke up with her, how could I be certain that I wouldn't end up being her second choice and that they weren't still dating and confronting him? I wouldn't believe him at all, and it wouldn't help if I didn't fully believe Julie. I had to do some work before I could eventually come up with a plan. I gave Hank, my vehicle mechanic, a call. He evaluated his work fairly and had a great understanding of machines. My old Chevrolet visited his shop multiple times a year, while Julie's Hyundai was still covered under warranty. He got pals with his wife, Melanie. During my lunch break, I gave Hank's automobile a call. Hank replied, "It's Dan Bryant here, Hank." "Dan, hello. How may I assist you?" "I need a favor, Hank." Oh, I bill twice as much per hour for my services, or 3 times as much if it's against the law." He laughed as he spoke. "No," I chuckled. "In answer, nothing against the law. Do you have any acquaintances with Chuck Goodman or Service Solutions? Although I've heard of this business, I've never met the man you named. Is he your pal?" Dan, I have no interest in anything related to computers." No. Since I don't even have a computer at my office, Hank, I won't ask you to buy anything nice. My books are handled by Mel's brother. He works as an accountant. That is not what I would ever want you to do. You won't have to pay a dime. I need you to let him know that I purchased the store from you, even though he probably won't call." "What?" He nearly let out a yell. "Who is going to give Chuck a call? How could I possibly say that? My store was purchased by you. He is employed with Service Solutions. I need a reason to go see him. I'll let him know that I purchased your store and would like to discuss purchasing software." I clarified that the other person was silent. "But you don't really want me to make a purchase, do you? It's really just an excuse to schedule a meeting. Will you do anything with him? You're not going to beat him up or anything, are you? Nothing violent, please." Hank doesn't know who I am, but I promise that I only need to ask him a few questions. There was more silence, and then he sighed. "I think all of this sounds extremely James Bond, but whatever. If Mel answers the phone, I'll also let her know. Are you certain you won't bring me up in any illicit discussions?" "Hank, of course, thank you. I don't want to take the chance, but it's likely that he won't even call." "All right. Just one thing, I need a promotion because you are the new owner." "Yes, exactly." I chuckled. "Remember me, the guy with the most catchy phrase." My strategy was partially set up, but I still needed to schedule a meeting. I wanted to know if I could invite Chuck because I thought they had some merchants. I was put through to his secretary as soon as I called and asked for his name. That everything went so well pleased me. I created a story about how I lived somewhere else and was only in town for a few days, and I gave myself an alias. She looked at Chuck's schedule and gave me an appointment for next Tuesday when I inquired if we could have lunch together. I informed the school early on Monday that I would be taking the following day off for personal reasons. Everything is going okay so far. Despite my nervousness, I knew my lines and had rehearsed them before entering the restaurant. I let the hostess show me to his table, even though I knew who he was as soon as I entered. He got to his feet. After exchanging handshakes, we introduced ourselves. Our server promised to return in a few minutes and brought coffee for us. Before putting it down, we both looked over the menu. I told myself it was time for the performance and started to do my bit as soon as he picked up his coffee. I apologize if I come across as a little anxious. I had an odd experience last night. I laughed. It's Chicago. Strange as usual. He made a joke. What has occurred? Well, I was a teenager when I lived here. For a long time, I've wanted to return home. Purchasing Hank's store allows me to do that. In any case, I ran into a woman I went to high school with last night at a hotel bar. I'm not often a kiss-and-tell man, believe me, but this felt really strange. After we struck up a conversation, I learned that both she and I were divorced. After a series of events, she accompanied me to my room. Just then the waiter came back. Chuck pretended to be interested, but I'm sure he was only being courteous when he told me to go on with my narrative. We gave him instructions and waited for him to go. I won't go into specifics, but when she abruptly jumped out of bed and stated she couldn't do it, I honestly believed we were going to have a fantastic night together. Talk about letting go of your pride. I took too long to get dressed. Before I knew it, she was gone, and I'm not sure what I did wrong. Waiting to see if he would fall for the ruse, I held my breath. He laughed once more. Julie wasn't her name. It was Connors. Hook, line, sinker, he took it. Julie's maiden name is Connors. All I had to do now was get as much information out of him as I could. No, why don't you tell me that you experienced the same thing? I inquired. Yes, he chuckled. I had known Julie since high school, but we didn't communicate for a few years following graduation when I was in college. Then she unexpectedly called me in my senior year of college. We reconciled and resumed our relationship. We met up on the weekends because she was attending a different institution, but it wasn't too far away. From the beginning, it was a little strange. In what way? I stepped in. It wasn't until our senior year of high school that we actually got out of bed. I figured we would continue where we left off when she called. I did interject. We dated for a few months before I finally got her back in the sack, and when it did happen, she did what your girlfriend does. I would also assume that it would be simple, especially because she called you exactly, he said. Before I could even touch it, she leaped to her feet, declared it an error, and left. I was still searching for more, even though it felt like the world had just been lifted off of me. In all this time, you have never been able to spend a night with her. We hooked up in high school, as I mentioned, but not until we reconnected in college. Yes, we shared a couple kisses in the car. My hand was down a few times as I removed her top, but that was about it. The server served us dinner at this moment, but I still had a crucial question. Have you seen her since? No, she didn't pick up when I tried to phone her. She eventually phoned me a few days later to apologize, as she explained why she sprang out of bed in that manner. He said, I believe she had another boyfriend and cheated on him with me, in response to my question. Then she had a sudden moral attack and you never saw her again. They didn't meet at a little diner, for a single evening. No, I said in my most sarcastic, whiplash voice. She was a unique woman as well. When she acknowledged that she was dating someone else, I made an attempt to give her a call back. She had already blocked my number, so I considered getting into a fight to try to get her back. She was serious about this guy, I believe. I didn't speak to her again after that. I met my wife, Lisa, not long after that. I suppose that's it. We have a wonderful daughter, and I'm extremely happy. It worked, and you claim to be divorced and to have children using this small method. If I got the information I wanted, I wasn't sure what I would do yet. Should I just let him babble on about selling software and keep lying now? Or should I be honest if he was a jerk? I'm rather certain that I would have simply left him saying, I'll call you, and carried on with the charade. Don't call me, but he gave off the impression of being stoic. I want to let you know that this supper will be on me before I reveal my confession. Even though I'm not particularly adept at reading people, he was the one who appeared perplexed. Right then, I don't know why I'm not who I claim to be. I interrupted him, middle of a sentence. Dan is my name. My wife is Julie. His mouth was open when I looked at it. I felt that I owed him an explanation, but I was only going to give him my name. It appears that you have no interest in our software, he inquired. Unfortunately, no. Julie and you had a brief date in college, which I recently learned about. In fact, at the time, we were engaged. She told me everything, but I wasn't sure I could trust her because she had kept it a secret for so long. I had to be certain that she was being honest with me. I thus devised this small scheme to try to persuade you to discuss it. And you discovered what you were looking for. Dangly, he asked. Indeed, I did. Your tales are nearly the same. You have no idea how relieved I felt. He inquired, how do you know Julie and I didn't meet up and compare stories? Since she doesn't even know I'm here, I knew he was upset and would try to assault me, but he had already given himself away. I am aware of your last name. Your rage also tells me. It's authentic, I said. Yes. Well, he responded, severing a chunk of Parmesan chicken. I need a cell. You can't be blamed, I suppose. I probably would have done the same if my wife had given me a story like that. Did she explain the reason to you? Admittedly, I've given this some attention over the years, and I'm still unsure of its significance. I mean, why would she call me at all if she was so obstinately infatuated with you? Do you think we are on an equal footing if I explain why and cover lunch? I smiled as I asked. He gave me a direct look as though I was extremely nervous. Then the tiniest smile appeared. He nodded slightly and answered, yes, of course. Why not? I gave him the entire tale, including how Julie didn't know he was back in Chicago until we were engaged and how her mother insisted that she should have confidence before committing to a relationship with a man. When he dumped her, I had to make sure she picked me over him and that I wasn't his second option, so I apologized once again for acting like I was sorry. He reassured me once more that everything transpired precisely as he had said. He then thanked me, stating that he had always been perplexed by the situation and that he was happy to have finally been educated despite having missed the sale. I thought we may become close friends once we left the restaurant. Rather, we said each other farewell and shook hands in the parking lot. I still had a lot to think about on the drive home. I gave several of my friends' relationships with their spouses some more thought, as well as the disputes and occasional disdain that women shown toward their husbands. I particularly recall Julie sitting at the women's table during one of our performances one evening. Julie attacked our drummer's wife, Linda, after she made a disparaging comment about the band. When Linda apologized to Julie and the other girls, she sobbed since she had scolded the woman on one side and the other. My wife is the one person I would most like to have at my side when it's all over. I was confident that she would do everything in her power to defend me in her marriage if the situations were reversed. Was there anything less I could have done for her? By the time I got home, it was only around 2. Julie would be home in 3.5 hours. God knows why, but I called, warmed up a cup of coffee, and sat at the kitchen table to reflect. However, for some reason, I felt compelled to glance at Julie and Chuck's pictures once again. On my laptop, I opened the file but was unable to locate it. She erased every picture of them together. Inquiring as to whether she had done the same with the pictures on her flash drive, I found it intriguing. As anticipated, I was able to locate it in her jewelry box with ease because I had a fairly clear notion of where she would put it. I turned it on and had a peek. Indeed, they had all vanished. Chuck was nowhere to be seen, but all the other pictures remained. She didn't even want to preserve one as a memento. It felt amazing as I stretched out on my chair after getting back into the car. Any doubt about Julie's faithfulness at that time would have been purely paranoid. She was definitely my woman, and I was definitely her man. That concept made me smile more than I had in a long time. Julie stared at me in my suit as soon as she entered and started to worry. Even though things were stressful, I couldn't hold it against her. Dan, what's going on? You're wearing a suit, but why? Today, I have a date. We'll be late if you don't hurry up and take a shower, I warned her. For a moment, she simply remained there, her face displaying a curious expression. What? Act quickly, I said, cutting her off. I'd want to have supper with you. What is the situation? She inquired. Later, I'll tell you. Act quickly. We've got 30 minutes to leave. When she watched my lectures, I believe she began to calm down a bit. Smile. She was naked when she emerged from the shower. Are you certain? You don't want to remain at home? No, we've made a reservation. But remember that idea for another time. I smiled in response, realizing how much this day had cost me. By the time Chuck and I had lunch, the total cost, including beverages and tip, was about $50. It would cost more than twice as much to eat dinner at O. Dead in the city center. When I finally answered Julie's query about why we were celebrating, she was already eating her Diane steak. Chuck and I had lunch together today. I put a piece of steak in her mouth and casually explained who she had asked. Julie, Chuck Goodman, gasped and briefly choked on a chunk of steak. She managed and took a glass of wine, which surprised me because I had assumed I would have to give her artificial respiration. When our waiter saw this, he rushed over to our table. Madam, is everything okay? With anxiety, he inquired. Before responding in a hoarse voice, Julie simply nodded and took another sip of wine. Yes, I simply did not swallow it properly. She coughed again and again. Are you certain you're all right? I inquired. She gave another nod. Yes, I'm all right. She glanced at the waiter and spoke a bit more clearly. To be honest, I'm all right. Did I hear it right? Have you and Chuck had lunch together? How were you able to locate him? What was it he said? You might be relieved to hear that he backed up your account. As questions raced through her head, she kept shaking her head. I doubt I ever mentioned his last name to you. How would you know where to look for him? It makes no difference. As soon as I located it, he began discussing me. I finally worked out how to bring you up in conversation, but it took some time. The unfortunate man was trying to figure out what went wrong that evening. Was he aware of your identity? Not until he answered all of my questions. Then I was honest with him. I chose to persuade her because she kept giving me the look that she didn't trust what I was saying. He undressed you in the car, but you didn't tell me. Her eyes widened multiple times, and I could tell she was convinced. I was aware that you didn't trust me. Angry, she said, if I told you that I would believe such a thing, would you believe it as well? Listen, you haven't shared your small adventure with me in all these years. You concealed it from me after we became engaged until I unintentionally found out. It was unfair. You cheated on me with another man and abandoned me, Julie. Although I can appreciate your motivations, your behavior is nonetheless unacceptable. How can I be sure you were honest if you weren't? Even though I could see tears welling up in Julie's eyes, I had to make sure she understood how serious the issue was. Something else is involved. Or something else. Yes, another stuff. You haven't even considered it, I believe. Since she remained silent, I went on. How did I know you wouldn't abandon me and return to Chuck? Perhaps Chuck was the one who told you he couldn't continue and left you since he already had someone special. What if I were, in fact, your rebound and backup? That's not how you think. She spoke too loudly. She lowered her voice when the people at the tables adjacent glanced at her. Have I ever made you think that, Dan? No, you didn't. You can't blame me, though, for thinking about it. Tears were streaming down her face. Sweetheart, don't cry. I'm not attempting to discipline you. I only want you to understand how serious this issue is. It was me this time. I needed to confirm that. She wiped her eyes with a white towel from her lap. Dan, please tell me you're sorry. I sincerely apologize. There is nothing in the world that will cause me to harm you. Julie, you have my forgiveness. I forgive you because I know that I would have questioned whether I was truly your first choice for the rest of your life if I couldn't get Chuck to talk. I understand that you felt the same way, so I forgive you. To make sure I did the same today, you went behind my back to validate what you believed you already knew. I caught a glimpse of her lovely smile. Please wipe away your beautiful eyes and smile for me. I wanted this to be a joyful event. Knowing that I adore you with every heartbeat, enjoy your dinner. You can consider methods to express your love for me tonight, and she did. How do you feel about today's story?